There's no doubt that Square Enix's Dragon Quest series has struggled a bit in the West compared to the company's other major franchises. There was a time when an English release of Dragon Quest VII seemed like a far-off dream, and games like its Theater Rhythm spin-off and the more recent Monster series release remain Japan-only titles. Still, the Western fanbase has only grown over time, and the localization of the aforementioned 7th title in the main series is credited to the fans. With that in mind, it's only natural that a game like Dragon Quest Builders, with its gameplay heavily influenced by popular games like Minecraft and Terraria, would also receive localization. But does the freeform creative nature of those games work when placed within the rigid structure of Dragon Quest? It's been hundreds of years since the being known only as the Dragon Lord succeeded in taking over the lands of Alefgard, robbing the world's human inhabitants of the power of creation and leaving them helpless to monsters that plague the land. You are the Builder, a plucky girl or boy with a dopey face and the incredible power to create new items from raw materials. The goddess Rubus has tasked you with restoring hope in the human race by rebuilding the entire civilization, brick by brick, all with the help of the many inhabitants drawn to the banners of hope you place at the center of your towns. Throughout the story, you'll also glimpse flashbacks of the events leading up to the Dragon Lord's victory, and you'll be given other historical tidbits through conversations with citizens and by discovering chapters of a book written by a man who lived through the end times. As a post-apocalypse scenario for the infamous bad end choice of Dragon Quest I, the story is wonderful, with humorous writing that matches the narrative style of the series and parts that, while serious, never venture into depressing territory. The main characters have unique voices, and even the townsfolk who are jerks have redeeming qualities. Except the Dragon Lord, of course. If you're familiar with the first game, the endgame won't surprise you, but it really only serves as a nostalgic throwback more than anything else. Besides, honestly, the game's greater focus lies in its gameplay. As a role-playing game drawing inspiration from sandbox building type games like Minecraft, Dragon Quest Builders gives you the tools to take any piece of environment, destroy it, and reconstitute the natural resources you collect into more useful items, like building materials, furniture, weapons, armor, and healing items, among others. Certain rocks and metals can only be excavated with weapons and tools that have a particular strength rating, acting as a path for progression. The other, more apparent element of structure seen is the presence of quests given by townsfolk. Over time, in each of the 4 regions of Alefgard, you will befriend different people who task you with various objectives, from building a haberdashery for sewing clothes, to making sardines on a stick for one of the more gluttonous inhabitants, to retrieving documents left in ruins out in the wild. These quests serve as inspiration for the builder, and they will develop new items to make on the spot to accomplish the task. Also, construction of each town will come naturally as you build rooms according to the designs of a given blueprint, placing the products where you see fit. Overall, the assignments you're given boil down to go get the thing to build the new thing, but that's the overall theme of the game, so it can be forgiven. Less forgivable are the grinding points required to continue progress in the story. As you decorate your town with different built or found furniture, your progress towards the next arbitrary level is shown using a bar. The problem is that, at certain points, your primary contact in town will simply tell you to raise the town's level, breaking the 4th wall in a rather awkward fashion. The level mechanic serves no other purpose than to artificially slow progress, act as a game challenge, and have levels. Leaving these out wouldn't have made the game any less of an RPG, or any less Dragon Quest, and would have been welcome. The act of completing assigned quests involves venturing outside the confines of your square plot of land to excavate raw materials, as stated earlier. Populating the desolate lands are all kinds of monsters, from the weakest slime to the strongest dragons. Much of the heinous fauna, like the flora, is indigenous to a particular area of Alefgard, and defense against the horde involves simple hacking and slashing, reminiscent of older games in the Zelda series. Defeating them is pretty simple, as their attacks are easily telegraphed, and they are performed on a cycle, though some monsters attack in groups that can easily overwhelm you without backup. More powerful fiends remain stationary until you enter their field of view. Killing these large monsters net you items. Some are amazing, some aren't, but all are useful in one way or another. The most powerful enemies are the bosses, who maintain an oppressive hold over each region. Defeating each requires a different approach, and they can be difficult or easy depending on the amount of time invested in preparing for them. Upon their demise, the bosses drop special materials that, after refined, bring light back to the region, prompting your move to the next one. Traveling through the portals to new regions causes you to lose all of your items and gear, bringing you back to square one. While this can be made sense of from a narrative perspective, losing all of your gear can be frustrating, given the time it takes to amass that wealth. Some other frustrating features include an inability to rotate placed blocks before or after placing them, or the inability to lay out blueprints where things have already been built, requiring you to destroy rooms routinely for proper placing of new objects. A way to reproduce rooms using recipes you've learned would have also been a nice feature, though that's also absent from Minecraft, so it's not as big of a deal. The lack of any sort of quest log means that, if you forget the specifics associated with your current goal, you'll have to endure a long-winded monologue prior to getting reminded of what you need to build or retrieve. You'll also get lost often, and while being able to get an overhead view of where you are is good, leaving that camera tethered to your character makes pathfinding difficult without the navigation orbs given throughout your journey. A big negative is the game still running in the background when you suspend the game, meaning you could return to play only to be shocked to find your character dead. In terms of presentation, Dragon Quest Builders doesn't disappoint, with character and monster models that look like Toriyama designs come to life, and a world that, while blocky, doesn't scream Minecraft clone thanks to the outstanding texturing. The sounds of hammers smashing rocks or placing heavy stones sound destructive and weighty, and many of the nostalgic sound effects maintained throughout the series are present. Also present are the modern orchestral versions of earlier series battle themes from Theater Rhythm Dragon Quest, which unfortunately means there are no new arrangements. That's not a bad thing considering this is a pseudo-remake of Dragon Quest I, but the Dragon Quest I overture is the weakest in the series, and there are others that are a bit more bombastic. Whether you're building according to the whims of the game's townspeople or your own in the game's free mode, Dragon Quest Builders is a joy to play. There are a few issues that prevent the game from being perfect, but they never really sullied the overall experience. It's not as feature-rich as its inspiration, but it's a great start to a possible spin-off series, and it's not a bad what-if scenario for the first game either. Whether it's in your home or on the go, you can't go wrong with a full-price purchase. So, considering Dragon Quest II is kind of the lame duck in the franchise, do you think a game like this could revitalize that story? Should more titles in the series use a similar battle system? Leave your thoughts below. Also, consider giving this video a like or dislike, and tell me what you think could be done better. Finally, I review games weekly, and if you're interested in watching reviews without a lot of fluff or long runtime, subscribe to my channel. I may or may not be working on World of Final Fantasy right now. Okay, I'm not, but the next game is pretty underrepresented at the moment, so look forward to that.